Okay, so we're now recording and we'll get started here. So again, this is Jim Quancy. I'm the Senior Director, Forge Partner Development. Now that includes Forge and includes the Autodesk Developer Network, which are really two different programs at Autodesk, one cloud-centric, one desktop-centric. I'd like to thank you all for joining myself and Stephen Preston. Today, this presentation should take about an hour, but we'll see how it goes. It probably depends how carried away I get doing demos and things of that sort. So again, glad you're all here, and we'll just jump in, so to speak. Now, as part of DevDays...
Jim, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. You need to share your screen. So there should be a sharing tab and a button that looks like a play button.
Click to start screen share. Yeah, I did click. It says waiting to view Stephen's screen. Oh, I need to change presenter. There we go. Show. Do you see it, Stephen?
It's there. Carry on, Jim.
Okay, here we go. To get things rolling, I did want to, talk through an example of a company that went through a major technology transition and kind of missed it. And it's really me making the point that this transition of applications to the cloud from desktops or from client server to the cloud, this is a once-in-a-generation kind of change, and it's so important one doesn't miss the transition. So I think a prime example is what happened to Kodak, headquartered in Rochester, New York. If you ask people at Kodak what they did back in the day, they'd say they're in the film business, because that's what they were That's what they produced. They were a chemical company, a manufacturer of film. But at the same time, their marketing people really knew what the company was about. It was about sharing moments, sharing experiences. Films, it's not about the chemicals. It's not about the thing you stick in your camera. It was about sharing moments. And Kodak knew that. But they kind of got hung up on, how they delivered things, not on actually what their value was. So a little bit of history here. Back in 1975, Kodak actually invents and patents the world's first digital camera. So this transition from chemical-based film processes to digital is not something that caught Kodak by surprise. They were actually leading the way. In 1994, you really want to get shocked, Apple had their first digital camera. It wasn't a phone camera, it was a digital camera, and it was actually designed by Kodak for Apple. So again, Kodak was right in there with the technology changes. They had the expertise, they had the people, they were leading the way. In 1996, so this is 20 years ago, Kodak's revenue peaked at $16 billion and $2.5 billion in profit. At this point, they were king of the mountain. If you asked them about, their business, they would say, it's robust and it's strong and we're going to be here forever. Now in 2000, the first camera phone came out. A Korean company put the first phone built into a mobile into a mobile phone. And that really was the beginning of the end. But Kodak didn't really know that, even though they had really been in the digital camera business for 25 years. Now, in 2005, so Kodak wasn't sitting by watching the digital camera business pass them. They were the largest seller of digital cameras in the world. But this move of cameras into phones, dramatically changed everyone's behavior and expectations on how photographs were delivered, um, from a physical to a digital. First iPhone was 2007. Um, Now, Kodak was out of the film business by 2009. You have to remember that was where they were, making all their money. 2010, so between 2005 to 2010, in 5 years, they went from the leader in digital cameras to 7th place in digital cameras. They missed the transition. And then they went out of business. Or I should say they're still in business, but they went through a major restructuring. They're just a shade of the business they were. So there was a period of time there, 2002, 2003 until 2010. There's a 5, 6, 7 year period of time when they needed to double down, when they needed to bet the company on the digital film business, which probably meant getting into the phone business and really, recognizing their job, their business is helping their customers share moments. It's not film. It's not a chemical company. And they couldn't do it. They missed it. And it didn't happen overnight. It took several years. And that is very much what's happening today with desktop software in the cloud. It's not happening overnight. Companies like Salesforce.com, I think they're in 15 years in. For our design business, CAD business, it's really only been the last couple of years that this transition to the cloud has been, aggressively moving on. But it's really, a message to everybody here. You kind of have to look at your business. What is your business? Make sure you understand what it is. And it's not what you do every day. It's the value you deliver to your customers. A little bit about the craziness that was happening at Kodak at the time. Wise people concluded it was best not to hurry to switch from making 70 cents on the dollar on film to making 5 cents at most in digital. VP of Electronic Imaging at Kodak. Its executives suffered from a mentality of perfect products rather than a high-tech mindset of make it, launch it, fix it, says Rosabeth Moss-Cantor of Harvard Business School. So the other thing Kodak was waiting for is until the digital experience could be as good and as high quality as the film experience, they shouldn't be launching it, they shouldn't be promoting it, they shouldn't be making heavy investments. The thing is, by the time, your average phone could capture a picture as good as a 35 millimeter SLR, it was too late. Kodak already lost the business. So again, I'd like everyone here to just think about what's your business. So here's the deal. Most of you build software, you may think you're in the software business. You may think you're in the application business. And for most of you, the answer is you're not. You're delivering experiences, you're delivering some kind of transformation of information. You're not in the app business. So Kodak thought they were doing something that is a noun, that's a thing that you could, touch, when they were really, what they were doing is a verb, a transformation, an experience. And that's the same thing for virtually all of us on the line today. We are what the value we deliver is a verb, it's an action. It's not a noun. And you really have to recognize that. Because if you don't, you're going to think, well, I sell apps versus I deliver experiences on the cloud. Okay, apps versus web services. This is the transition we're going through. This transition started in the ERP market 15 years back, and it's well along at this point. Let's look at email. Email's gone from what was a client-server business to primarily a web service business today. And CAD's going down this path too. Now, CAD is a bit harder, it's bigger, big models, performance issues, reliability requirements, security issues. There's a bit more to it, no question about it. But have no doubt this is absolutely happening. And you can't start late. If you start late, it's somebody's going to eat your lunch. So Autodesk is clearly going down this path. Virtually everybody here has heard this before, but we want you to come with us. We need you to come with us. Many of you are leaders in your field, in your industry, in your market area. And the best thing for Autodesk and Autodesk customers is you come with us on this journey to the cloud. But at the same time I say that, I have no doubt we may lose half our partners in this transition because it's a difficult transition. It's a very different way of developing, deploying business models. It's very different. Okay, so with that, we're going to go back to our theme for the day, and hopefully I got your attention, which is for DevDays, which is about data at the center, allowing our customers to have their data in one place, and then people being able to access it and use it, transform it, experience it from wherever, whatever device they happen to have, wherever they happen to be. And Forge is an enabling technology when it comes to design and engineering data, CAD data. And again, it's about experiences. It's verbs, it's not nouns. You do need to, I can't say enough, you need to internalize this. And this still happens to me. Those of you who know me, I've been at Autodesk quite a long time, 28 years now almost. And having been in the app business such a long time, your mind tends to react in a way that kind of assumes an app type of experience. And that's real, or an app type of thing, a noun, when it really is not about a noun. And you really kind of have to step back and whenever you are quick to reach a conclusion or a decision or an observation, you got to make sure, did I get this right? Is that true in an experienced-based environment, a non-app-based environment? Okay, so what we deliver is services, and that's how the customer sees it. We're delivering them it may be a design service, a data usage service, a data transformation service. It may be helping them sell, it may helping them provide services, it may helping them automate, but they're services. And that's why Autodesk is investing so heavily in Forge, because this transformation is happening. And we're taking these services that we initially built for Autodesk's own customer-facing services like BIM 360, Fusion 360, A360, and now making them available to you. And production proven, hundreds of thousands of users every day, really born in the cloud services that you can leverage, whether in a visible way or in a kind of behind the scenes way, giving you tools to help your users work with and transform and collaborate around design and engineering data. So again, data at the center. Autodesk OSS, it's our object storage service. So one thing about data at the center, it's not about the data is only in one place. Like, I'm not going to be telling people, oh, all our customers and all of you should put all design and engineering data in Autodesk Object Store. The answer is no. That data is in all kinds of places. It could be in an ERP system. Some customers, Autodesk uses boxes that, the way we share data. I know some of our customers that use Box as their kind of source of truth for data. Maybe it's a cloud-based system like NetSuite, an CRM system. Maybe it's up in AWS. Maybe it's Microsoft SharePoint. Wherever, data is where it is. But the key is Forge allows you to get at that data through a single set of web services, and then get information out of that data. You can see these Forge services: data management for getting at files, model derivative for extracting information, whether it's something you can view, or some geometry, or some metadata, bill of material, part numbers, usage information. Whether that's design automation, you want to transform that data. Maybe you want to take DWGs and turn them into PDFs. Reality capture, turning photos into meshes and models. BIM 360, using that data in an integrated building information modeling environment. And with that, just some examples of using Forge to easily share design and engineering data. This is some of you may have seen this before. It's kind of a sales and marketing website for sharing design and engineering information. We've got some Fusion models. Some of these models are from Revit. They could be from SolidWorks, Solid Edge, CATIA, Pro-E. Could be IFC files. Doesn't really matter. It's just a web page. Could be, I'm using Chrome here. Could be Firefox. Could be Safari. Doesn't really matter. You can see this, the user interface here is pretty slick. We can do things like, explode, and I don't know how visually this is coming across, because in fact what I should probably do is do a slider explode, so it's more likely you can see what's happening. Right, just on a web page, could be on a tablet device, could be on your phone. It just kind of works. And being able to get attribute information on parts, this is a carbon fiber twill, thermoplastic resin, mass, volume, area, density, whatever. Now, it could just as well be something like a building, or how about a factory? We'll get a little BIM and a little mechanical stuff kind of all wrapped in one. And this is a pretty big model. This is not a small thing. And there's robots here. And the interesting part with Forge is, the robots maybe were designed in Inventor. Maybe this clamping system was done in SolidWorks or Pro-E. The building was done in Revit. Or, I don't know, ArchiCAD brought in with IFC. Doesn't really matter. Forge is a web service that allows you to deliver design and information to whoever on whatever device at any time quite easily.
So Jim, the broadcast is making that page look a little bit jerky, so I'd encourage attendees to actually try that URL for themselves, which is just viewer-rocks.herokuapp.com.
Yeah, in fact, I'll wait a sec here. Anybody here who wants to kind of experience this in a much smoother environment, you can just capture this. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go to another example here. This is a website for St. Petersburg Polytechnic in St. Petersburg, Russia. And the dean, I think it's the School of Civil Engineering, not really sure, I don't speak Russian, wanted to show off what his grad students were doing. And this building here at the bottom is the oldest building in the school. And I think freshman architects are told to go redesign this building as a way to learn to do building information modeling. This upper building, I think, is a grad student project, and I'm going to do a section. And I'll try to move slow here so you can kind of see what's going on. And I'll go look at the building core, the stairwell, all from a web page. And this ability to explore design and engineering information on a web page was implemented in a day. About a year and a half ago, I went out and visited the St. Petersburg Polytech. We did some presentations on Forge. And again, this isn't recent. And the next day, they had thrown some models up on their school website. More recently, in the last 6 months, we went to the Technical University in Darmstadt, Germany. Was explaining to them what was possible. So they took a Revit model and threw it up there on their website. And this was 2 or 3 hours after we presented it to them. They had already thrown it up because it was easy to do. Sharing information, right? And it's not just about the model, it's the metadata. the tags. Now, I don't speak German, so I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I've picked this, I don't know, it looks like some concrete panel on the outside of this building. But here's all this metadata, all this information um, about this panel, such as might be used by maybe during a design review or a construction review or the actual construction of the model itself. A lot of what I'm going to show today, a lot of visual stuff, but the metadata is very much as important. Just another example, here's a partner of ours, a ship constructor. They're up in Victoria, just outside of Victoria, Canada. Another old website. I wanted to leave you with something new. It took me 3 minutes. So this was done at AU like 2 years ago. So the other thing, people who are looking at Forge going, is it ready for prime time? It's like, yeah, absolutely it's ready for prime time. Autodesk uses it all the time in our web services. And you can see all these details. I'm going to explode this model because this is not a small model. Let's look at some properties. And the folks at Ship Constructor were really excited that all the attribute information, in this case it was done in AutoCAD, came through the Forge pipeline and was available. Things like this GUID, which will help if you wanted to hook to an external data source. Part numbers, real interesting information like center of gravity information, which if you build ships, your crane, this is heavy steel plate. You need a crane to pick things up, and you need to know where to attach the clamps to be able to move things. So you could have a tablet down in the shipyard, helping the crane operator and the people setting the plates up for welding, get that all together through a simple web page. Okay, so let me we've been looking at that. Now, to be clear, again, CAD data is not the center of the world. Whether it's a customer or partners, they're being able to access that data at the center, whether, again, it's that data that's been put up in an Autodesk property, such as with BIM 360 or Fusion 360 or A360, or whether it's data in box, or partners and customers can use Forge to get their own data that's sitting on box or wherever, and hooking that data up to other data sources. And let me go find another one. Should I do a building or should I do something mechanicalist? Yeah, I'll do a building, but this is just as well could be a mechanical thing. Doesn't really matter. This is a Revit model on the left. On the right here is external data. That external data could be from an ERP system or a CRM system, a maintenance system, a cost estimating system. Doesn't really matter. I can do things like, I'm going to click on concrete, and you can see the model updates to show just the concrete. Let me pick this concrete, and let's look at properties of that concrete. Because what we want to look at down below here is, you see this database information? Material, supplier, price, currency. That is not from the model. That's from an external data source. So see the price? What's that price? 20,000. Let's see if I can find concrete here. Where's the concrete? Here it is. Concrete 20,000. And this pricing. Let me change it to 2,000. And watch below, because the cost breakdown in that pie chart are all going to update when I hit enter. So the pie chart's updated, the cost information breakdown is updated, the pricing here in the property panel has been updated. So I made a change in an external data source, a database, an ERP system, or CRM, a cost estimating system, and it's updating everything. And this is just a web page. Could be on a tablet, could be, and it's easy. JavaScript, HTML5, REST-based architecture, really straightforward stuff. Now, now I'm going to do a really fun one. What I have here is this tab is data stored in C4R collaboration for Revit. There's a project here. This tab is information that comes from Fusion 360, my dingy fun, and from information that's stored in A360. We get all kinds of stuff there. Oh, and by the way, here, this hub is information that I have in BIM 360 docs. So I've got all this information from all these different sources available from a single web page. And it's using the Forge Data Management API to allow you to access it all. And you know, more than access it, I mean, you can work with it. So in this case, I'm going to start out with, we're going to grab I think there's a race car here. Sports car, this is a DWF file. You can see the thumbnail here. So I'm going to bring this car in, and we'll see the viewer here. And that'll load on up. Okay, there's the car. Now, and remember, that came from A360. Now I'm going to go to my dinghy, which is a Fusion 360 project. Some of you, I think last Dev Days or two, I've done a little dinghy work. Now we clearly have a scaling thing going on here. So why don't I change the scaling for the dinghy? What do you think? Factor 10 or 20? What do you think? 0.1? I don't know. I think I need to make my dinghy smaller yet. It's not as big as my car. 0.5. Oh, that looks about right. And then let me do some, transformation of the dinghy to, it's clearly in the wrong place. I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to play with my dinghy to get it kind of lined up with the car, because my car needs to be able to tow my dinghy, because I'm going to stick it in the parking lot of a Revit project. Yeah, I think that works. So we're good there. And now let's go to that collaboration for Revit project, and let's bring that in. It's going to take a little bit. It's a big Revit project. Oh, we're going to need to scale that, clearly. So again, let's go transform model, scale, I don't know, what do you think, 20? Maybe that's a little too big. Let's try 15. Yeah, that looks a little better. And then let's transform. Because I need to put my boat and my car in the parking lot. But that looks about right. There's actually some snapping capability on here. I think that's good enough for now. Right, so again, I've got a Fusion model. This car, I don't know where it's from. It might have come from Alias Design or Inventor or SolidWorks, for all that matters. And a Revit project, all in the same page. Steve, is this updating okay, or is it a little jerky?
It's pretty good.
Pretty good, good. And the last thing I'm going to do, just for fun, is transform models, grab the car. I'm not going to do full model transform. And I'm going to remove the bonnet. Is that what you call it in Britain, the bonnet? Only to find out my car has no engine. Oh, what a pity. But you can see it's not like all these models have been dumbed down because I've brought them all together. They're still all there. That metadata for every entity, every part, assembly, subassembly, systems in the buildings, floors, it's all there in a single web page available by anybody from anywhere. Pretty cool stuff. And with that, we'll move on. Now, Autodesk is building our own services, our customer-facing services, A360 Fusion, BIM 360 Docs on top of Forge. We're rebuilding things like BIM 360 Field and Glue to sit on top of BIM 360 docs, so they can all leverage Forge. So hopefully this gets you thinking about customer experiences, things you can create, and not about apps. Think experiences. Again, it could be a website. Now, it could be a mobile app that happens to use, a web view, or a mobile app that's extracting data through a web service. I mean, there's lots of different, ways you can spin this. So again, we've got partners, we've got customers using Forge today, and it's more than a few. There are hundreds of partners and customers using Forge today. So I'm going to show some examples. What are we going to do here? CFD, Building 360, CAD mockup. Okay, CFD first. A partner of ours, CC Tech in India, took Forge and decided to build a cloud-based, web-based CFD app. I could do a mechanical thing or a building thing. Maybe I'll do a mechanical thing. I will tell you, they're finding their biggest growth in customers is actually CFD for buildings, because a lot of mechanical design people already have some CFD tools that they bought and were quite expensive. But building folks, especially if you're doing hospitals, where you can have issues with contagious diseases and you need to control airflow, and building engineers don't have that same background in CFD as you would get somebody doing valves or something. So what I did is I turned on the flow line, flow tubes, and sectioning. Pretty amazing. And this app, I'm just showing you the viewing part. They actually allow for everything. You upload your model, it uses Forge to get the geometry. You set boundary conditions, you set flow rates, you run the solve, it runs up on Amazon Web Services, AWS, and then it gives you this result. And then they got all this UI around the result. Quite cool. Another example, company CAD Company, based in the Netherlands, built a website to help their customers, architects and construction firms, kind of show their work off. And this website was first built by a summer intern they hired, who was quite fluent in web development, though knew nothing about CAD and BIM, so probably didn't know what should have been too hard. So here I'm going to go to this. It's a restaurant by the ocean. At least I hope I'm going to go there. Oh, here we go. They've totally changed the UI. Because clearly with Forge, you have these services, and it's just HTML5 and JavaScript in most part. So you can kind of skin it any way you want. All right, so here's this restaurant. Again, this one started out as a Revit model. But they added this drawings interface, and I'll pick a, well, I don't know Dutch, so I don't know what this is, vertiping, but here's a sheet. And this sheet could be a DWG, could be a Revit sheet. Maybe this was an Inventor model or a SolidWorks model, and this is, drawings, and they mixed it up. And they're helping their customers, the architecture and the construction firms, win new business by making their design work available online. And they're actually going quite a bit further. And you see this issues tab here. They're building a new business. They have a product. I shouldn't call it a product. It's a web service called Collabora that makes it easier for their customers, their design and construction companies, to work together. And integrated with BIM 360 and works with Navisworks, and it's been amazingly fast for them to kind of pull all this together. Here's another fun kind of website. Let me zoom in a little more. So many of our customers who sell engineered products, they have photographs on their website. But if you buy engineered products, it tends to be, photos are nice, but show me the specs. Or in this case, it's an earth mover. Show me, I want details maybe on this hydraulic cylinder, because maybe I had problems with it in the past. Or maybe, I bought this and I want to do maintenance, and it's like, what's this thing weigh? And Okay, should I send two guys to go pick it up? Do I need a crane to do maintenance? So it weighs 43 kilograms. So, okay, 100 pounds. Yeah, maybe two big guys can help replace this cylinder. So again, a photo's worth 1,000 words. A model's worth 1,000 photos. It really is. And I can do all the, fun stuff like explode the model. So maybe I want to get at a very specific part because maybe I want to get a part number. What's the part number here? Date created, there's the part number, label, author. Maybe I want to navigate through the assembly. So let me see the cab assembly. And here's the cab assembly. All that information on assembly, subassemblies, parts, all that structure is maintained. Because Forge is smart, it knows about design stuff. If this was a Revit building, it would know about levels and systems and different than a mechanical thing where it's assemblies and subassemblies and parts. Okay, let's move back. So partners and customers using Forge to take their data where they already have it and making it available for sales, for construction, for maintenance. Oh, I had some other ones here. Oh, Google and Box. Yeah, let's show that. At Autodesk, our IT folks have standardized on Box as the way we share information. And we had a customer, an architectural firm, who their back-end systems were all Box. So they said, hey, how easy is it to integrate, build an intranet and extranet that would expose some of this Box information to customers and suppliers? So one of my engineers down in Augusto, down in Sao Paulo, cranked out in a couple hours this interface with Box. That's integrated with Autodesk Enterprise subscription to Box using something called three-legged OAuth. So I'm going to Box to get access. Now, because this is Autodesk's enterprise account of Box, I need to log in, with Autodesk. And what I'm about to get here is a complete list of all my folders and files in Box. And here they are. Here's all my folders and files in Box. And here's an ISC file. And look what's going on here. Preparing, file translated, launching viewer. Now a little bit about what, just went on here. This file is still sitting in Box. The source of truth is Box where the customer wanted it. Yet from anywhere, I've got access to a browser. I can check out this file. Maybe I'll pick something else. There's something a little funky with this IFC file. Let me go pick the cylinder head. This is an IPT, so that was an IFC. Now we'll bring in an Inventor file. Could be a SolidWorks file. Doesn't really matter. Right, here it is. Data at the center, leaving data where it is, where it belongs. And and that is up to the customer. It's up to you, the developer. Where's the source of truth? And avoiding revision control hell by passing files around and keeping security because you don't have to pass files around. You're just giving people the ability to look at, interrogate, get information without passing a binary to somebody, which you really don't want to do because once you kind of let it out, then again revision control hell, something to be avoided. Here's another one, Google Drive. You'll laugh. Google asked us about this one. At Google, all their data center information is kept in Google Drive. So what they asked is, hey, how easy is it to integrate Google Drive? And here it is. Here's all my files. I got a Google Drive account. I got threw a bunch of files up there. And I don't know, building sections. Let me grab something that's kind of fun, pump base. Let's do that one. So again, I'm not changing the source of the data. I'm not saying the data is, now in, Autodesk's content center. It's just using Forge to make that information visible and to allow people to access that information. I definitely have something a little buggy going on that I'm going to need to look at. And with that, you know what I think my problem is? I got way too many web pages open at this point, don't you think? Every one of them with the Forge view. I'm going to simplify things here. I think my viewer's getting unhappy at being overloaded. My browser's feeling unhappy about being overloaded. Okay, let's go back to PowerPoint. I did Google, I did Box. Now, customers, partners building on top of Forge and building on top of Fusion. Now, I actually already kind of showed that when I showed you that that dinghy that I actually got out of my Fusion 360 account. Very straightforward. I mentioned earlier the next generation of glue and field are being rebuilt as we speak. We'll see those in a few months. Built on top of BIM 360 docs. That information will be accessible via Forge in a very easy way. And we have customers and partners building out apps that are going through BIM 360 docs using Forge to build really integrated experiences. Again, partners, you know, customers building experiences on top of partner apps, you know. Oh, here's what would be a good example? So I think I've got three. What am I going to show? Retail, boat. Yeah, let me show those. Icon is one of our, was a long-term Autodesk partner. Typically client-server application. But they engaged with us with Forge about 1.5 years ago. They provide the 10 largest retail stores in UK asset management solutions. So they saw that need to transition to offer their customers a cloud-based solution, which they then built out. Here's an example of a laboratory that you might have in a university. And taking advantage of Forge, and I can do things again like, you know, property information. And the interesting part about Icon is they did all this cloud 3D BIM work, and then another large company in the UK said, "Oh, we love what you're doing. We need to move to the cloud too. We need help doing it," and they got acquired. Now, Chris, good friend of mine, who was the founder of Icon. You know, it's a bittersweet thing. The sweet part is, you know, he monetized his 20 years of investments and got a nice bit of money, to say the least. And now he's working as part of a bigger organization. So that was great. And, you know, the bitter part is, you know, Chris is no longer part of a small company. And I love working with small companies. Okay, here's another example. A partner of ours in Australia built an IoT user interface for a tanker, for a production platform. And you see these bubbles, and there's orange, red, yellow. That's telling you there's something going on there on the tanker. Information that is happening in real time from sensors on a tanker. Information that is available, whether it's the control room of the tanker or in a control room on the other side of the planet, in Europe or the US. You know, kind of like, you know, we've all seen what happens, what the military does with drones, but you can imagine a tanker that is not only being monitored by people on the ship, but is also being monitored by people on land who are not seasick, who you know, have a better quality of life than living on a tanker, potentially reducing the number of people that are needed on the tanker. You know, with some discussions of someday having drone tankers. I have to think about that one. You know, some other, I'm going to do a little, they've built in some animation capabilities using Forge. So make it easy to kind of bounce around the different areas of the tanker to spot areas that, things are going on. All using the Forge API. Okay, so that's some IoT. Now here's an interesting one. Using Forge. Forge has a design automation API. It has AutoCAD up on the cloud. AutoCAD as an engine with no user interface, such as, I don't know, maybe you need to publish a PDF file of every DWG that changes, and kind of every night you want to run a batch job and do those updates. But in this example, we've got an alpha version of Inventor up on the cloud. In this case, what you see on the left is a part as you would see it modeled in Inventor without the threads. On the right is with the threads. So, clearly if you are doing a large machine, you don't want to model all the geometric threads, otherwise your model is going to be monstrous. But on the other hand, if you do fasteners or things, or lead screws, or, depending on your business, you may want that true geometry. And what this web page does is you can drag and drop a piece of an Inventor part that has no geometry threads, and it'll add the threads, and then it'll allow you to email a part to, back to you. And let me do that. So I am going to go to Windows Explorer. I'm going to see this thread, and it's an IPT, so it's an Inventor part file. I'm going to drag and drop it. It's being uploaded to this Forge design automation service, and it's going to create a part for us. And there's no Inventor in sight. Now, as an aside, we made the decision back in December to also build out a design automation service for Revit. So there'll be a Revit engine later this year up on the cloud. Again, for doing things, maybe you want to run PDF files or IFC files every night, or maybe you want to automate the creation of Revit families from a database, things of that sort. And hopefully this will finish up here in a sec. This is an alpha site, partner of ours, Cool Orange, based in northern Italy, built this out. We've got a handful of alpha sites working with us on this this Inventor engine up on the cloud. Anyone interested in the Inventor engine, or frankly the future in the Revit engine, if you haven't talked to us already, reach out. Okay, here we go. So you see these threads have now been built into this model, and there's fine threads, and here's the coarse. One side of this part was fine threads and one side was coarse threads. And this is just a web page. I mean, you could do this on a tablet or a phone or kind of whatever. And the other interesting part, talking to the folks at Cool Orange, this proof of concept was built in a week. And Cool Orange will tell you they weren't really web development experts when they got started, so they had a lot of basics to learn. And there was still something they built in just a week. Oops. Let's keep moving here. Plenty of demos. So again, the whole piece, all these possibilities that Forge enables you to create experiences that mash up data from various sources, leaving the data where it belongs, that single source of truth, data at the center, being able to mash up data from all different kinds of systems, presenting it on a web page, or it could be data being delivered actually through an app, but that data is coming off the cloud, or a mobile app, or whatever it may be. Two more quick demos just for fun. What am I going to do? Do a little reality capture and some 3JS stuff. No, skip that. No, I don't have enough time for that. No, let's skip that. Yeah, I have lots and lots of examples. Oh, I was going to this wasn't on my list, but I should show it while I'm here. People had this question about where's my data? It's my data, and this is really coming from a lot of our European customers and partners. They want their data in Europe or in the US, where they know the local rules and laws and privacy and security. See this? It says region EMEA. And I'm going to show you here in settings, region. When you have data that you push to Forge, you can decide where it lives. Now, for a lot of cases, you don't want it to live in Forge at all. It's a transient thing. You push your data to Forge, Forge takes it apart, creates a viewable, or extracts the metadata, does a query, does what you want it to do, and then just gets rid of the data. So it doesn't need to save it at all. But if you want Forge to hold on to the data, maybe at a later date you want to do an export in an IFC file or a step file or an IGES file, you've got data that's going to be related to something in a BIM 360 project or a Fusion 360 project, and you want to be able to have it in a specific data center in a specific part of the world, you can do that. I mean, it's just an argument in a line of JavaScript. I want this data in EMEA, so that would be in Autodesk's. It's actually the AWS data center in Ireland or the US, and we've got 2 AWS data centers we use in the US. So you have those choices. And we are looking at additional data centers. I will say we don't have anything to announce at this time. I hear loud and clear from partners in China, Russia, Japan, Singapore, and kind of, that desire to have data locally, because the customers want to know that their local government rules are being applied to the way that data is secured and handled. And we're heading in that direction, and it's just, and for me, I've been talking about the multiple data centers and keeping data within the EU for probably a year and a half now, so it's good to see that that is there. Now, there was one more model I was going to show. Oh, here it is, reality capture. This is a mine. It's not a mine, it's a dam construction site. That was made from 400 photos from a drone using the reality capture API, where construction companies are keeping track of what's happening and really saving money. How many cubic yards or meters of dirt got moved? I'm being told that really happened. How far are we with a concrete pour? How far are we building a bridge? And sending a drone up, something that used to be kind of crazy because you couldn't send a helicopter, you couldn't afford it. Now it's like, $1,000 drone and, frankly, some kid driving it, taking photos, and using the reality capture API, which is in beta right now, you can have a model. And this is a mesh that you can do things like quantity comparisons to see what's changed day to day, week to week. Pretty slick. There was one more. Oh, here's another one, what I call 3JS hacking. Now, the Forge viewer uses open source 3JS as part of its technology base. That allows you to do really wild things like these notes, adding these dynamic notes to a model that stay connected, so to speak, when I take it apart or explode it. And I can also do things like, I don't know, save the state. So let's call this state 012 because we're in there close looking at that label. We'll call it that, save state. So I did that live, I saved the state. So let me go to that state, exploded screws state, and it's still dynamic. This state from the top, and it's still dynamic. And now this label state that I saved on the fly. So, whether it's building walkthroughs or design reviews or just, you could build a web page to do that with a customer, with a customer's customer. We've got people, building things for like maintenance and repairs and assembly and disassembly, because you can do it on a web page and where it's accessible by any device that basically has access to a browser. Okay, covering a lot of ground here. Okay, so now a little bit about if you're not a cloud developer. If you are, at this point, you have a real good idea what needs to be done. If you're not, We recognize, there's a learning curve here, and it usually starts with, God, half of what Jim said, I don't know if I get. And man, is it really as easy as he said? I don't know if I believe him. And then you work through that, and then it gets to be fun, and then you move on to the boring part, which is where we all need to get. Um, so I just want to make it clear how you can learn. The number one way is Google search. We've spent a lot of time with Forge making it so you can go to Google or Bing or your favorite search engine and do a search. Here, a search on Autodesk Forge. And what happens? The very top is the Autodesk Forge website. Right under that, you see near the fourth item is GitHub, where you can get code samples. And the fifth item is Stack Overflow, where you can see community conversations about using the various Forge services. Because clearly, this is the way to learn. You go to the Forge site, you see the docs, you see the code samples. You go to GitHub, you see more code samples. You find those ones that'll help you to copy and paste as much as possible so you can write the minimum amount of code. You go to Stack Overflow to say, to get community help, and not just community help. Autodesk has a team of engineers. I have a team of engineers on Stephen Preston's team who man Stack Overflow and make sure that every question gets answered. For those of you, you can also ask questions direct via email. If you're an ADN member, you can use the normal, email, web-based DevHelp Online. We answer Forge questions in private, one-on-one, though we do encourage people to do it in public on Stack Overflow so people can share in the learning. But that's up to you. The Cloud and Mobile Dev Blog. So we've got about 10 engineers who contribute to this dev blog, and there's a few postings virtually every week. That talks about using Forge. YouTube, we've got all kinds of YouTube videos. And again, this presentation today is going to end up on YouTube. Here's information from GitHub, where you can learn about the Forge platform, see code samples, find the right one. And then Stack Overflow. Those of you who are familiar with Stack Overflow, and I imagine a lot of you, clearly Stack Overflow is an absolutely great place because the community kind of votes up and down what's the best answer, and the best answers float to the top, and you don't have to dig through long threads. Now this is all kind of self-service kind of thing. A lot of developers I know like the self-service because like talking to a real person might be means I'm not as smart as I think I am. But there are those of you who want to do face-to-face. And in the beginning, if you're getting started, face-to-face can really accelerate the learning curve in a big way. So face-to-face opportunities. We have the Autodesk Cloud Accelerators. I do have a date wrong here. It says February in San Francisco. It's actually currently planned for March in San Francisco. Late March, there's going to be an accelerator in Gothenburg, Sweden. And I think in June, we've got an accelerator planned in, I don't know if it's Barcelona or it's in Munich. But again, you do a Google search, Autodesk Cloud Accelerators, you'll see the latest dates.
And I just wanted to add to that, Jim, the deadline for applying to the March 6th San Francisco Accelerator is in 3 days' time, February the 10th.
Yeah, so if you want to get up to speed fast, let us know now. And we ask that you tell us what you want to accomplish, because we want to make sure when you come that you've done the necessary prep work and that we have the experts on hand in your area. So, if you're using design automation and AutoCAD IO, let's make sure we have the right engineer there to help you hand in hand. If it's around building information modeling, Revit, BIM 360, we want to make sure we have the right experts. Is it Fusion 360? We'll make sure you having a very specific project, we'll make sure we have the right experts there. We also always have the objective when you come to an accelerator is making sure you leave with a working prototype. This isn't there to there's no class here. We do some presentations, but it's not a class. It's about sitting next to Autodesk engineers and very quickly helping you build a demoable prototype you can show the folks back at home, whether that's your customers, your users, whatever that may be. The other thing, we had our first Forge DevCon last year. We've got it coming up again. and I'm going to skip this video since it won't work well. The Forge DevCon this coming year is actually going to be tangent and somewhat overlapping Autodesk University in Vegas. So November 13th and 14th. So it's Monday and Tuesday. There will be, Monday is kind of all Forge all the time, keynote speeches, classes, exhibit kind of stuff. There'll be a Forge Village. Tuesday, it's actually going to start out with the AU keynote, so you can get the big picture on what's happening at Autodesk. And then later in the day on Tuesday, more Forge classes. You'll have access to the actually the AU parties on both Monday night and Tuesday night. And there's a large Forge exhibition area that's going to be part of the AU exhibition. You can choose to come for 2 days, and we don't have the pricing totally sorted out. I think we're talking about between $250 and $300 for that Forge 2-day DevCon Monday, Tuesday. Or if you're already going to AU or thinking of AU, you can sign up for AU. And AU is not cheap. I think it's about $1,500, something in that region. And then you can add on the DevCon for maybe $100, something along those lines. Again, the other thing you can do if you need help, face-to-face, one-on-one, drop us an email, and we'll get back to you. If you want to talk, drop us an email and give us a time and a phone number, and we'll reach out to you. We are happy to talk, especially, again, if you're new to the cloud, if you're new to Forge. I recommend everyone when you're getting started, have an hour conference call with an Autodesk Forge expert engineer to talk about what you're doing. Point you at the right code samples, point you about the things you might want to, the gotchas, the blind alleys, what you're doing is very straightforward and here's how you want to get started. Or what you're doing is tricky and here's the tricky parts. Absolutely, don't go into this blind. You don't need to. We're here to help. Okay, moving on. Before we kind of end up the morning here, talk a little bit about how we're doing with the Autodesk App Store. I'd bring you up to speed. The App Store is clearly the best way for Autodesk partners to reach new customers, to reach more Autodesk customers, whether you have apps for Revit or Inventor or Maya or Fusion or Max or Civil 3D or whatever. There is no better marketing tool than the App Store. And the App Store is increasingly becoming a valuable sales tool. But that's still, I will say, we're going through a bit of training of customers to make large purchases in the App Store. The average number of Autodesk customers that visit the App Store every day is 10,000 people. So this is a small stadium's worth of people visiting the App Store every day. We've had 2 million downloads. So the App Store has been in business about 4 years now, and 2 million downloads. And you know what? It's accelerated. We will probably do over the next year 1 million downloads in a single year. Here you can see the visitors. We had 2 million visitors in 2015. In 2016, I haven't seen the final numbers, but I'm sure it's up there around 2.5 million visitors in 2016. Now, keep in mind, you know what this means? This is like over half of every Autodesk product user has been to the App Store in any 1 year. Downloads. Near a third of every user that goes to the App Store does a download. And what this is saying is people trust it. The apps are quality. My team that does the testing and packaging. And I know those of you who have apps in the store, my thanks for patience as we work with you to make sure that your apps deliver an absolutely great customer experience. But it's working. Customers, they come back. They like what they see. They get good value. Paid app sales. Now, these numbers are relatively small. 6,000 sales in a year is relatively small, but you know what? That's a 60-70% increase in paid apps sales between 2014 and 2015. And keep this trend up a few years from now. There's the amount of actual revenue coming out of the store is expected to be significant. We are getting there. A number of apps in the store. I saw the numbers yesterday, and we've got over 2,700 apps in the store. Now, why is this important to you? Well, the more apps, the more likely a customer going there will find an app to solve their problem, which means they'll come back next time. which makes the store a more valuable place for you to engage with Autodesk customers. Okay, so that's the App Store. I think that's enough for now. A little bit Forge roadmap for those of you who've been using Forge a bit already, and if not, what's coming with Forge. Now, the data management API, which you've seen. I mean, what's relatively new there is the support for BIM 360. In fact, when this presentation was first given back in December, the BIM 360 side was kind of incipient. It is now BIM 360 Docs is working now. You can push and pull files back and forth. You can access information on BIM 360 Docs. Again, browse projects, navigate, upload and download files. There's also a BIM 360 API that's in beta, also known as BIM 360 HQ, that allows you to do things like create projects, add users to projects. That is actually, again, that has started working now. It's in beta. It's not officially released as a open to the general public, but reality is if you or customers using BIM 360 and you're looking for an integration to help them manage projects and manage users, this is something that works today. Now the model derivative service, right, enabling users to share design information to extract information, whether it's thumbnails or doing actual, getting STLs or OBJ files or BREP information or structures or bill of materials or metadata, you can do that. What's new is the ability to convert Revit files to IFC, and that is there right now. The viewer itself, again, I've shown a lot of the viewer. Now, what's coming, and it's funny, this went live. I saw release notes from about 2 weeks back, basic VR support, and a significant performance improvement have been implemented in just the last 2 weeks or so with the viewer. Now, it will be clear when I say VR, we're talking web VR. If it's a really big model, you're going to have performance issues. But if it's a modest-sized model, it works pretty damn well. So it's a great way for you to build experiences to get customers thinking about VR, and for enabling your customers to wow their customers, which is a bit of VR, like VR using Google Cardboard. And I'll tell you, there's more work being done in this area. It's not just what I call this lightweight VR. But already, I don't know how many customer demos I've been in. We're just showing them lightweight VR has absolutely got their attention and said, hey, Autodesk, you're the right people to work with. And I see some of our partners doing that exact same thing, and some of you can do that too. And we're just making it easier and easier to do. Design automation. One of the enhancements in the Design Automation API was giving you the ability to use it to create viewables that can use the Forge viewer that also access information stored in X-Data. We heard last year and frankly the year before that during DevDays that people wanted to expose their X-Data to their customers through the Forge viewer and treat it really as first-class metadata. And using the Forge Design Automation API, so using kind of the AutoCAD engine on the cloud, we've got a code sample that shows you exactly how to go do that. And frankly, it's loading your object enabler up on our cloud, up on AutoCAD on the cloud to get that kind of work done. So what else are we working on? I already mentioned, I showed you a demo with Design Automation, the Inventor API. Again, we have alpha right now. If you've got a specific need right now you want to build for a customer, we're happy to engage, happy to introduce you to the product manager, guy Sanjay Ramaswamy. And we've got a product manager working on the Revit API, so this Revit up on the cloud. Scott Rieneman is the man. And again, if you want to talk to him about that, so as we get to the point of releasing it, it's fulfilling the needs you have for a Revit engine up on the cloud. Reality capture, it's still in beta, it hasn't been formally released. Now, I will tell you, it's taken us longer than we thought because we found out we needed to increase performance, increase quality, so increase the number of photos and photo sets that work successfully. It led to a significant engine rewrite to go do that. We also needed to increase the performance working with large numbers of photos. The old Reality Capture API limited out at 250 photos. Now I think the limit's 400 or 500 photos and big, high-resolution photos. And it just runs faster, which means eventually, when it comes to a cost, it will be lower cost, so more accessible to more people. Not that we have the cost model figured out for this yet. We're still working on that. Yeah, yes, now process up to 500 photos. Got it. Okay, and support of ground control points is coming, and a quality report. Again, for professional use, turning photos into models. We're getting quite a bit of demand for more detailed information. So it's not just a pretty picture, but you can do real engineering and understand accuracy and things of that sort. And that is coming. Oh yeah, I mentioned already, there's more, we're doing more work on VR. Something we have a product manager pursuing is a model prep pipeline. Some of you may have seen Autodesk Live, which is prepping Revit models for use in VR, for delivering a VR experience. We want to generalize that kind of capabilities in a more general way. So whether it's a widget coming from Fusion or Inventor or SolidWorks for that matter, or it's a building model, making it easy for you to call our VR service to prep the model. Clean it up, make sure the materials are right, make sure the normals are right, make sure the UVs are right, reduce level of detail, optimize the model for performance, that kind of thing. What else? Webhooks. So this is basically events for the data management API model derivative, so you can respond as changes are happening. We should see that in the next month or two. An issue service that includes red lines, markups, comments. Now we have, Autodesk, we've built 3 or 4 of our own issue services. BIM Docs, BIM 360 Docs is one, Fusion 360 is one, A360 is one. So we're building out a single standalone service for issues. So there's a single way to deal with these very similar needs for making comments, capturing input from various members of a team who are collaborating. I think probably really important is there's many customers and developers like you who already have some kind of issues, whether it's a service or a database, and they want to be able to integrate, or you want to be able to integrate that system you already have with these other Autodesk services, and the issue service will make that straightforward to do. Or maybe you want to add an issue service from scratch, and it'll make that relatively quick and easy. Security compliance, working on SOC 2. Now, I'll tell you, we just got SOC 2 compliance approval for BIM 360. So BIM 360 docs, our data management, and I think our model derivative Forge APIs also got SOC 2 compliance. Not all our Forge services are SOC 2. If you don't know what SOC 2 is, when customers ask pointed questions about security and reliability, SOC 2 is the major standard that customers look toward. Somebody responsible for security and reliability, an IT VP who does that, will be very familiar with SOC 2. So we've leaped that hurdle. Later this year, we expect all Forge services to be SOC 2 compliant. There's also something called EU model contracts, which is very much about the handling of personal data, and things like being able to use the service to say, I want Autodesk to get rid of all information that I have ever provided, ever, including my personal information on who I am and what I've done. And that's a tricky thing to do if you haven't architected your system to do it, when there's so many different services involved. And that actual kind of deletion is something we have implemented already, but we've got a bit more work to do. And that's it. That is data at the center. I've overrun here 15 minutes. which is not all that different than when I ran there in the actual dev days. I was running 5 or 10 minutes over. And at that point, Steven, we have any questions here or any chat going on? Anybody out there want to talk?
No questions yet. So now's the time to ask some questions. If you were saving them up, you can go to the question window and just type it in, and we'll just answer them as they come in.
Now, for those of you who are ADN members, the PowerPoint slides, code samples, links are all up on the ADN extranet under events, and they've been there for a while now. And again, you can use the PowerPoints to link to all these websites that I've kind of shown you. I also encourage you to don't be bashful after the fact. Reaching out to us, whether it's using Stack Overflow or that, Forge email address to ask us questions. Do not be bashful. Now, I'm going to need to figure
Still
out
no questions coming in at the moment.
I'm going to need to figure out how to end recording. Sure.
So the button you press to start the recording, Jim, you click to end it as well.
Yeah, but it's not there anymore.
I'll stop it then.